Hello, my name is Fallon. On January 30th, 2013, my life changed. I was 14 when I got a random text from an unknown number. I didn't know who it was, but thought nothing of it. It could have been a friend, but it was something very different.
What kind of made you think that he might have been like awful a little?
When I realized I didn't know any Nick Monroy, and when he would text me like repeatedly after I didn't answer.
How frequent were the texts? Was it like something like back to back, or what was the span of the messages?
They were always different. It wasn't like one, like a specific amount of time between.
How many days did these messages last?
From an evening to about 10:30ish, and then one text the day after.
Did other people around you know what was going on?
My friends did, and that was about it.
What did they say?
They wanted to call him and figure out who it was, or asked me like what all was said and wanted to see the messages.
Now, did you have a random phone number call you before, or was this like a first time thing?
I've had random numbers call me like everybody has, but then like he was just not a random number. I don't know.
So what was the sequence of these messages? Like, what was he asking for?
He started off like very casual, just like, want to be your friend and stuff, want to talk to you. And then it turned into being very sexual and asking for things.
When did he start getting too like explicit?
When I started telling him to go away and to leave me alone, and that I was 14 and that he was too old to be talking to a 14-year-old and stuff, he started getting like more and more sexual in what he said.
Now, what age did he say he was?
First time he said he was 28, and then that's when I told him I was 14 and that he didn't need to be texting me. And then he told me he was like, I think 22, and then he said he was 18. Well, that night when he like started being sexual and stuff, I just like told him he was a creeper and stuff, and then he finally left me alone that night. And then the next day I checked my phone all through school, I didn't get any messages, and then at 3:19 he sent me a picture with a little like kitten that was sparkly and stuff in pink, and it said, "I miss you." And that's when I decided to go home and tell my mom that this random guy was texting me.
What was his response when you tried to get rid of him?
He said sorry that I didn't want to do all this stuff with him, and would just say just anything he could, would call me baby to try to get me to stay and talk to him and give him what he wants.
Now, where did he tell you he was from? Like, did you know where he was at?
Yes. He told me that he lived in Harrisonburg.
Did you ever tell him where you lived?
No.
Okay, so you told your parents. What did they say?
They took my phone immediately and started going through all the messages, and Mom told Mom first, and she started going through, and then at first she was just reading them, and then when she got to it where he was being sexual, she like got really mad and like upset and like started to freak out about it, and immediately called the cop, who is a friend of the family.
Now, what did the police officer say?
He came and got my phone that night and took it and went through the messages and did everything and told me that they will catch him and stuff.
What's an example of a message he sent to you?
He texted me and said, "I don't know, do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a friend who's closer to my age who I can text?"
How did that make you feel? What do you think of that?
Well, not at first, but afterwards I started thinking of, like, I never told him that I was a girl. And somehow he just knew, apparently, that I was, and I was exactly what he was looking for.
What was the last thing you guys said to each other?
I said, "Don't ever text me again. I'm serious." He said, "Why?" I said, "'Cause you are bothering me and a creeper, and I don't know you. Now stop." He said, "Okay, baby."
What did your parents do once they found out about? What were their like going through their head, you think?
They were like really scared for me and like didn't know why he started texting me and who he was and how he found me. And we started freaking out because we could look him up and find where he lived and everything we wanted to know about him. And we didn't know if he could do the same thing, like look me up and look up my number and stuff and find me and where I lived and come get me.
What did the kids at school say?
They didn't really understand at first, and then like once they realized that it was like a big deal and cops were involved, they started asking more questions about it and like why it was such a big deal and stuff. And then some of them like made fun of it and started saying, oh, well, I have random numbers text me all the time, that it's not a big deal, and that they just don't get why I even told, basically.
Now, eventually, what did the cops do?
They lured him in acting like they were me, and then I had changed my whole mindset about meeting him and like about him texting me and stuff. And that Friday they met him in the Stanton Mall parking lot and went like through his phone and he started saying it wasn't me and all this stuff and everything, and like all the messages were still there, everything, and it was his truck. And so they arrested him and took him to jail.
Just carry on with your life, or is it something that took a long time to get over?
It took, it's still taking quite a long time to get over. They made me go to counseling and I was put on meds. I wouldn't go outside without like my parents being with me. I slept in my parents' room because I was scared to death that like somehow he would find me or somehow his family would find me and punish me for getting him put in jail.
Do you know what he was charged with or what his crime eventually was?
He was charged with the use of electric means to solicit sex from a child in an attempt to expose sexual parts.
How much time did he serve in jail?
He served 1 year and then was deported back to Mexico. I still have the article from 2 years ago when this happened.
How did it make you feel seeing it in the newspaper?
It made it seem very real, and that's when it really became real, was when it was in the paper and everybody saw it, and when most people knew that girl was me, and when it was on TV. It came as a total shock of that this actually happened to me.
Was that the first time you saw his face in the newspaper article?
The first time I ever saw his face was when it came on the news. Nobody was expecting it. Just all of a sudden, like, his face was up there and they told my story and what happened. And at first I kind of laughed and like, tried to like blow it off as if it like wasn't a big deal. But then afterwards, like, I realized like this was the man that could have taken me away, that could have killed me, and that was behind ruining my life.
Now, do you know what he was planning on doing with you if he would have gotten you?
God, I'm gonna cry.
It's okay.
He told the cops when they were interrogating him that he was planning on taking me back to Mexico and making me a sex slave, or that he would have taken me back to his place where all his buddies were, and once they got done with me, that they probably would have killed me. It definitely brought my family closer together. They realized, like, when we all realized how quick it could be to lose somebody from something basically that seems so little that just turns into something so big.
All right, so what is something you would say to people now who might be going through something like this?
I would say that it's really hard to deal with and that it will stay with you probably for the rest of your life, but every day it gets easier, and some days you don't ever think about it, and then some days you are completely torn apart that this is your past and that you have to live with it, and that you know that this is happening to other people.
If you had a chance to talk to him, what would you say?
I've thought about it a lot of what I would ask him and what I would tell him, and most people tell me that if I had the chance that I shouldn't let him know that he destroyed me and everything. But to me, I would want to know why and how he got my number and how he knew I was a girl and why he thought it was okay to continue to text a 14-year-old girl the things he did, and just want to know why he did it and why he didn't stop, and why me, of all people and of all the numbers in the world, why he had to pick my number.